in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 won't you let the light shine through?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Deception Detection Radio. I'm Kay.
And I'm Chad.
We pray you all had a blessed week. Tonight, we are pleased to welcome back two brothers and friends who have become an important part of the Deception Detection Radio ministry. Gary Wayne, who is the author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and Jim Wilhelmsen, who is the author of Sometimes the Truth is Beyond Science Fiction. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Well, glad to be back and glad to be working with Jim and Chad and yourself, Kay. So I think we're going to have an awesome discussion tonight.
I think so, too. We've had this planned for a while, so I know it's going to be good. God's going to bless it, and it's going to be a fun show, too. I know that. Chad, you said that you would like to go ahead and do the opening prayer tonight, please?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
Dear Father, we come to you in your name, and we come to glorify you and Jesus, and to basically get further into the Word. And I'm having trouble here. Just basically, we want to come together in your name, and we want to just glorify you. And basically, we just want to, get some edification, and as well as be informed. And we do all this in your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Well, this is a first for you, Gary and Jim, that you've been able to come together and actually meet and talk. And that's an exciting thing because you both have amazing books. You think a lot alike. So really, I don't know where to start this at. Is there anything in particular that has stood out between you two and looking at each other's books that you are wanting to discuss with each other?
Well, I know for me, it's very encouraging. I see that he has come from a bit of a different angle, but we both come to the same conclusions. I'm familiar with Gary through some of his videos, and I did a quick synopsis of his book the best I could. I mean, there is so much extensive research in there that a lot of it I'm not even going to pretend to know or be background, but the little bit that I have segued from him, it's almost identical. It's pretty exciting, Gary, to finally meet you and have the chance to work with you. Even though it's the first time we've actually officially met. Like I was telling everybody before earlier, sometimes you just don't know who you're talking to or, how legit they are or anything. But with me, I've got the kind of relationship with the Lord. I just ask, what about this guy? What about this guy? Especially when I lived in Roswell and was meeting just about everybody that's ever been involved in the whole UFO alien thing. And it's amazing how the Lord has given me discernment. And so what he said about you, Gary, was that, hey, he's one of the good guys. He's just like you and just has a different angle in the ministry. But you guys are on the same page. And I certainly feel that we are. And for me, that's good enough to go. When Dad says you're cool, then you're cool.
Well, thank you. And I do come at things from a different angle. And my whole sort of approach when I decided to come back to God and to Jesus was to take a step back from a fresh approach and not depend on others. So that's why I call myself a contrarian. I don't necessarily accept the status quo, but I let God and I let Jesus and I let the Bible guide me in terms of what I think and what I believe, and try and back it up as much as I can with parallel information, certainly well backed up scripturally, and to trying to find a narrative, because I wanted to come at it from a perspective where I wasn't going to be influenced from other writers and researchers, which is why I don't have much contact with most people in this genre, because I wanted to make sure that the research was going to be not influenced by others. So it's heartening to know that so much of what I've been led to find and believe is, confirmed by other researchers and writers, and certainly, so much of what Jim writes about and talks about is so close to what I have found that it's kind of I guess it's amazing to me, but I suppose in the overall scheme of things that's not really amazing, because if you are arriving at truth, there should be many others that should have that truth, and it's just a matter of getting the information out there. So being able to partner to get the information into other people's hands and raise their curiosity so that they can maybe go to the next level beyond what we've done is all about what I'm trying to do.
Amen. It's funny. I do the same thing, Gary. I've not that I don't appreciate other people's work. I do. But when I'm approaching something, I have a question or something in my mind that I think the Lord is prompting me with, I want it fresh from Him. I don't want to get it contaminated with preconceived ideas so I totally understand. That's why I've been more in the kind of in the background, you might say, under the radar many times, mainly because I'm working with individuals and concentrate most of my efforts on the victims of what I'm writing about, as opposed to just getting a broader message out there. You can't do both. So my choices have been to concentrate on the individuals, work with them, get their issues resolved. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. So I don't have a lot of time for going to big seminars and whatnot. I just stay focused on the individuals in most cases. Hello. Everybody, Chad.
That always happens to you, Jim.
Somebody say something. Amen. I don't know.
You just leave everybody speechless. That's what it is. Oh, well, where did you guys want to start as far as your books go, your research? Is there an area that you really would like to get into since you have the opportunity to speak with each other?
Well, I think the first thing is, I've noticed, and so I know that Gary is, it's pivotal. I mean, his main thing is the bloodlines, following, everything, and it definitely explains history, but it explains the scriptures too. But I touch very little bit on the bloodlines. I stay away from it, quite frankly, because it scares everybody. I have the luxury of having two churches that are fully supportive of what I do. They've allowed me to come in and teach. One of them was a failed victim of alien abduction, so he totally gets and understands what my ministry is about. And the other one has been able to, a deep thinker. I kind of compare him like Paul. He's able to take the intellect and the anointing, merging the two, and getting the best of both. So he's gone back, researched my work from the original languages and everything, and it's even overturned some of the preconceived ideas he's had, but he's been able on a scholarly level to backtrack my work. It's the first pastor that's ever even cared enough to do that. And when he does, he's come back and he says, man, your work is solid. He says, this is really real. This is eye-opener. So I have two places that are inviting and allow me to come in and teach all this stuff. But the moment I start mentioning bloodlines, they get nervous as all heck. So I know, Gary, this has probably been the burden on your back, your entire ministry, because people get nervous about bloodlines. They think somehow that restricts salvation, or it must restrict something. No, it goes all the way back. There's two seeds. Now, when people get nervous about that, I say, well, their response is, well, one is spiritual and one is physical. Okay, if that's the case, will you please show me the scripture that says that one is spiritual and one is physical? Because I don't see it anywhere. If you know the scripture, please give it to me. I want to see it. I need to see it. It's not there. There's two literal seeds. I mean, the parable that Jesus wrote about an enemy sowing seed into his. That wasn't a spiritual seed. There was two literal seeds, and it really all comes back down to that. And that's where people get nervous, because then you start mixing it in with salvation. Well, we already see from Genesis 6, there's two seeds there. One is not redeemable. One is. So if we see that there as a reality, why is it hard to see it in other various aspects? Because there are reasons why there are two seeds, and two seeds have a variety of dimensional additions, situations that are going on, mechanics that are going on, but it comes down to a two seed line. One is God's and one is not. Right, Gary?
Certainly, that's got a lot to do with what's playing out. In our age, there's no doubt about it in my mind. And clearly there is two seeds entered, one in Genesis 6 and sort of foreshadowed in Genesis 3:15 with the serpent seed.
Yep.
And one of the things that I always like to make clear is that bloodlines and physicalities don't have anything to do with faith. And I think Jesus' sacrifice was literally large enough to forgive every sin in this world, except for sins against the Holy Spirit. And so even though it's very, very important, it's not crucial to the salvation. And if there was anything that was significant, except for the sins against the Holy Spirit, I mean, beyond the fourth generation in Israelite law would say that you're not responsible for your father's sins, right? So I like to put people at ease about, we can talk about the different bloodlines. And it's important to understand the impact of those bloodlines, not only in prehistory, but after the flood, all the way throughout our history, what they're doing today and how they're going to impact the end time. But we don't have to let it get us distracted from what faith is all about and our belief in Jesus as the Messiah and God as the omnipotent God of the universe that created everything. So I think that's the first thing I like to put people at ease at. And then that sort of makes it, I think, a little easier to talk about the impact of those bloodlines, because we know from Genesis and from what happens after the flood when the giants resurface, and from all of the parallel testimony, maybe that's an incorrect word, but parallel accounts from other religions, mythologies, legends around the world, that they tell a very similar story about the Nephilim and how they usurped the kingships and how they basically caused the flood and destroyed the antediluvian world. And then again, they usurped those kingships after the flood. And, Daniel is quite good at talking about what I call the metallic dynasties. And even to the point in, Daniel 2:43, where it comes down to that, the descendants of those metallic empires, which are the descendants and the bloodlines of the Nephilim, are going to mix with the offspring of humans. And so there's a mixing that's going to come in the end time. And I think once we get beyond those initial thresholds, that just because you have negative blood, and there's no real evidence to suggest that if you've got negative blood, that's even the bloodlines of the giants. It seems like there's a lot of circumstantial evidence about that. And I don't, in my book, get into Rh negative, and we can talk more about that if people want on this show. But it's just something that's there, and it's interesting, and it's a possibility. Now, from the other side, though, they do believe in their royal bloodlines. They do believe that their bloodlines come from the Nephilim and the fallen angels, and there's lots of speculation that they believe that the Rh negative is that sort of blood marker that comes from what they call the gene of Isis, that would permit that other blood type, and one that doesn't really intermix well with reproduction of positive bloodlines. And it's also a significant part of the secret societies and what they call the Vril concept, that something in the blood came down through the Aryans, that if they could backwards engineer today, which is what the Nazis did, and who also accepted the Vril concept, which is Rosicrucian, that they could backwards engineer a new super race or a new man. So this whole concept with them is absolutely constant, from understanding what the other side is planning and doing and how they view things. But it doesn't have much to do with salvation, in my opinion.
I would totally agree, Gary. And I have a friend, John Darnell. He lives in Australia. He works with the ritualistic satanic abuse kinds of things. He wrote a book called The Gospel to Every Creature. I think this book really is unappreciated. It's going to have its day and time, I think, very soon. But I love the way he presents this in light of the modern results. I mean, I deal with this, dealing with victims of alien abduction. I have so many people that call up and they're scared to death. One, because she had Rh negative blood, and she had 6-digit fingers and toes that also seem to be a part of her family. I've had other people that have had, the double rows of teeth, other things that would be associated with the Nephilim or the Nephilim bloodline. And most of the people, of course, when they're approaching me, they're terrified, they're upset. And I said, I've got some good news for you. And the one gal in particular, I said, this really bothers you. You're concerned about your salvation and the salvation of your children and offspring and everything. And she broke out crying. She said, yes. And I said, well, you know what? I got some great news for you. In Genesis 3, it says, I will put enmity between thy seed and the serpent's seed. So, I mean, there was a protection right there. If you were truly overwhelmingly a Nephilim or were, excluded from salvation, you wouldn't care one bit. You would hate God. You would hate his people. You would hate his word. And the last thing you would care about is your position with God. I said, so I got some good news to you. You're okay. You're okay in the sense that it concerns you. You're concerned about your salvation. That only comes from a prompting of the Holy Spirit, and God's not going to be a tormentor. I said, so, my dear, you are, did you ever accept Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior? And of course I did. No, and she's crying and everything. I said, well, I got good news for you. You're under the blood that has erased all of that. You have no worry or fear. Just because you have some blood or 6-digit toes and fingers means nothing. You are concerned about your relationship with God, and that means that only comes about by the Holy Spirit drawing and leading you to come to that conclusion. So you're okay, girl. It's all right. And so John Darnell, he wrote a book addressing the idea that with technologies that are coming out where they're actually intermixing human and animal transhumanism kinds of things, that he says, to what point there's a blurriness there. And I don't think, and he said, speaking for himself, I don't think it's up to us to determine who is or who isn't. That's up to God. But there's going to be more and more challenges as these technologies are experimented upon people, that many times people are going to end up being an innocent victim. He says, so I think in the day after Christ, now whosoever will really means whosoever will. There's going to be an ability for some of these entities that you had no choice to what was put upon them, that perhaps there's a way out through Christ. And that's a spiritual thing. And I kind of look at it in the sense that, I've seen the T-shirts where it says, kill them all and let God sort them out. We're told in the scriptures to go and preach the gospel to every creature. And the creature means sentient, intelligent beings. So it means maybe even some that are not fully human. Maybe even preaching to Nephilim ourselves. But we're to pray for everybody, preach to everybody, and let God sort them out. And I had one person say, but if we do that, they'll creep in. Well, look at Jude, the book of Jude. They do creep in. They will creep in. It's a fact. How do they do it? Because, okay, maybe on our part, we're giving the best chance for everybody for literally a whosoever will. And that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. We don't worry about where they creep or how they creep. They're going to. It's pretty much predetermined by the Lord. He's warned us that that's going to happen in these days right now. They're in our midst, steering mankind toward one world government, one world religion, one world economic system. It's going to happen. But guess what? God's still in control. And I peeked in the back of the book in Revelations 19, and guess what? We win, they lose. We're just studying the efforts of losers. They don't win. So I think when everybody can kind of relax on that effort, but John Darnell's book is really going to be something that needs to be understood, and he's giving the idea that after Christ now, like you were saying, Gary, that although there's a physical, tangible reality, it doesn't necessarily have to lock everybody into a spiritual condition. That's up to God, not up to us. And I think that's where people really need to relax and see the separation of those two, that the power of Jesus' blood was offered to whosoever will. And we need to keep that in the forefront of as we're presenting these kinds of things too. I deal with that stuff all the time. There's a residual result of Nephilim blood diluted into the human race. Rh negative, I'm sure, is the same. My wife is Rh negative. Well, she's actually a bit anal induction's perfect thing. She's Irish. She's Rh negative blood. She has twins in her family. Well, you name it. She's got everything that they think is a choice thing that they want to grab and nab and genetically manipulate and play around with. But she also very much loves the Lord and has a close relationship with him. So...
You did it again, Jim.
Just wanted to make sure you were done, but those are excellent points for sure, Jim. And I couldn't agree with you more on everything that you have said there. And the other thing to keep in mind, though, is it's important to understand the bloodlines, and it's important to understand a little bit about Rh negative blood as a possibility for sure. And I do promote that as a significant possibility. But also be careful that people should not go overboard on this on other aspects, because all things that they're working with here are designed to deceive us in the end time.
Yep.
And deceive even the elect. So you have to look at all things with objectivity and what does it really mean, which is what we've been talking about. It doesn't really mean much at all, other than we need to be aware of it, that there's bloodlines and there's people out there, the spurious forces that are working against us and want to bring on the rendezvous in the end time. And there's a lot of thought out there, and I want to be careful with this one, because I'm not here to dismiss other people's research or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But be careful that as we get closer to the end time, that they're going to do a blood analysis off the Shroud of Turin, and that turns out to be negative blood. And it may or may not be, but the extension of that is what people are saying, well, they're going to clone Antichrist from them. Well, whether they do or they don't isn't my real concern there. Antichrist is going to come. So however he comes is we're going to see that as that unfolds. But the problem gets to be is if they link Rh negative blood to Jesus and then make the case that Jesus is actually from the angelic bloodline, you can see how that deception starts to snowball and can easily deceive people. So again, we know Jesus was implanted by, or the word was implanted by the Holy Spirit into Mary, and whatever bloodline Mary had at that time is what Mary had. And we don't even know whether the shroud is for sure the shroud of Jesus. It may be, and we won't even know if their research is legitimate, and they're just not lying to us. So we have to be very, very careful with how people will manipulate this information and how they'll try and deceive people. But again, that is not to dismiss spending time on it and to understand it, but I like to get into the shoes, as scary as it is at times, of what the spurious forces are doing and thinking and what they're trying to do, so I can better understand, kind of what direction that they're going to be going. And they do have to deny Jesus as being the word from God. And I can't think of a better way than tying him to angelic bloodline.
But in a sense, Gary, that already happened in Nazi Germany. In order to get the church to accept Nazi ideology, it was actually Heinrich Himmler that adopted this Holy Grail idea, that the Holy Grail was actually a bloodline, and Jesus was married to Mary, and they kind of went down the same path that you were already talking about. To win the church over to accept Nazi ideology and accept their occult beliefs. And to a degree, it worked. So, Satan just uses the same old lie. If it's going to work, he's going to use it again in just a different outer veneer, but the same basic concept. And that's what we're seeing here. That it's already been done before. It was done in the 30s. The whole idea of the Holy Grail being a bloodline is really big with New Agers now. And what they don't realize, they just borrowed Nazi ideology. It was done in World War II in Nazi Germany. And he's actually one that inspired that whole concept and idea. Now they've just taken it off to another level.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they did in Nazi Germany. They overlaid the Völkisch ideology with the real concept, and that brings in, the Aryan, it brings in the Grail, and it brings in all of that sort of revisionist sort of history that comes out in that Aryan concept of Nazis and the new man. So, and all of that is also Gnostic and Rosicrucian and secret society religion and doctrine as well. But that makes sense because Nazism comes out of those two forces. So it just went sort of a little bit more rogue with them than they would have liked, which is why they ended up turning against them and funding to put them down. But also communism also got out of control and set up by the same types of organizations and people. But also when we talk about bloodlines, I hear too many people talk about Western bloodlines, and that the 13 bloodlines is just European or even transferred to North American bloodlines. And again, I think that's when we start looking at the bloodlines that are coming down through history, that's a bit of a mistake in my opinion, and we can be deceived with it. There are bloodlines that survive from these giants all around the world. And so even if you go back into Chinese history and you go back into their, the age of their heavenly gods, which were all dragons or seraphims, and you produced the Li family, you have those bloodlines that you produce the complete Chinese dynasty, right from the Xia dynasty right down to the last dynasty that's overthrown by the communists. And now you still have another Li that's in charge of China today. And they dominate the royal families and kingships of Southeast Asia, including starting the Yamamoto dynasty through Shufu, who is also going back through more of a priesthood line back to the age of the original Xia dynasty. So all of this is being expressed around the world, and it will come to play. And and people think that when the Spanish and the Portuguese went to the New World, that they basically wiped out the royal bloodlines from the Quiché Maya or the Mixtecs or the Toltecs or the Incas and all the other different sort of kings and royal bloodlines that were existing there. Well, they didn't. What they did was they executed the current king, but they didn't execute the complete family. And within about 20 years of that happening, those royal families were provided noblehood again by the Spanish and the Portuguese kingships and became the noble class again. And then they started to intermarry with the Spanish and Portuguese royal families. So these bloodlines are respected. I mean, they may not always work in harmony, but they're there all around the world. And so when we read about prophecies in the end time, like the kings of the East as an example, and that the 10-nation empire is going to be made up of 10 kings, we have to understand that there's going to be a lot of bloodlines within that end-time empire that have Nephilim bloodlines who are waiting in the background to take control of their spheres of influence.
Exactly. Yeah. And another thing that I don't know why Christians get nervous with me when I share this. I said, basically the only reason that you and I are able to be saved is because God had his own hybridization program. that he had prepared. And in Amos, it says that he was going to do something that would enable all of Israel would fill the world. Now, when the 10 tribes were taken into captivity, there were some tribes that never returned back to Israel. They scattered themselves throughout the whole world. And some of those are traceable of these tribes. And in Isaiah 26th chapter, God says that he will do a strange work, that he will, and then he goes into the different seeds and says he's going to plant them wherever he wants to place them. Now, the Portuguese, some of the monks, they were traveling the world and evangelizing and going to the New World. And when they had reached, what was it? The peaks in Machu Picchu in South America, they were watching the native people there. They were watching them, and they were having this celebration, and they had a lamb upon an altar. And then in Hebrew, they Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, and then they cut the throat of the lamb. They had just heard them say Deuteronomy 6:4 in Hebrew, and they just performed a sacrifice that all the Levitical priests had done. Where did they get that from? It's just incredible. There's so much traces of Hebraic influence all throughout the whole world that truly when the Lord said that he was going to fill the whole world with Israel, he had his own hybridization program. The 10 nations, or the 10 tribes, literally had infiltrated all throughout all the continents, everywhere, and had an influence or an impact in a godly way. When Jesus came, it said that now in the fullness of time. Now, the fullness of time in the Greek back then was a agricultural term, meaning when the harvest was ripe. So in the fullness of time, Christ came into the world. Why? Because the harvest was ripe. What harvest? God had filled the whole world with Israel, and now it was an ability to whosoever will may come. So he had his own hybridization program. I truly believe that even on God's part, there's a godly seed line he had mixed in with every continent, every color, every race, every nationality, so that whosoever will may come, but it's still based on a bloodline.
Mm-hmm. And what's important about that, and I'm a firm believer and following of the lost tribes of Israel, is that they were sent to the four corners of the world, and they will be brought back from the four corners of the world when they awaken in the end time. And if people are going to understand prophecy, I think they need to understand that there's different things that prophecy is applied to, and it's not just to Christians, because God is going to fulfill his holy covenant. I mean, his promises are forever, and they will be fulfilled. And the lost tribes will awaken, and they will be joined back to Judah, and it will happen in the end time. And I think I would encourage people to dig deeper into many of those Old Testament prophecies and apply prophecies that go to Israel and to Jacob and to Isaac and to specifically the northern tribes. And then you can be a little bit more careful with Ephraim and Manasseh, because those are going to be quite specific for the end time as well. But still part of that whole lost tribe sort of understanding. And then the prophecies to Judah, apply that to Judah, because you need to understand those are two separate entities, and they have two separate roles through the curses of the covenant, because they didn't fulfill the covenant. But yet it's going to happen in the end time with Jesus leading them in Exodus. So I think it's important that what we try and do is encourage people with some of these things that we're talking about to research these things so that they are better prepared to understand the events and not be easily deceived, because we have no idea what's coming at us in terms of how they plan to deceive us, other than it's going to be brain modification and manipulation and propaganda at a level that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's other things too, technologies that are going to be used as a weapon against us. But I like the idea in Isaiah 19th chapter that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. This is the inheritance of them that follow him. That's ageless. That means for all of us all the time. So I don't care whether it's Project Bluebeam, whether it's CERN, whether it's I think nothing can separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. I like that. No weapon formed is going to hurt us, a faithful remnant. Everybody else, if you're standing outside of Christ, be scared, be concerned. You really need to be concerned because what's coming down ahead, most Christians are not even ready to face or understand what's coming down, if it were possible to deceive the very elect. So that means the implication there is, for a short time at least, it will deceive the very elect.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that so many Christians aren't soundly based in the Scripture, and so I think that opens them up for that deception, which is why I always try and encourage people to get deeper into Scripture so that they understand what's going on in the world, and all of this has to take place. We don't have to like it. But it has to take place, and it's ordained to be fulfilled on God's timetable. But between A and B on that is what do we do about it, and how do we try to awaken people to recognize what the Bible is talking about, what the world is all about, and connect those two and prepare themselves so that they can hear the call.
Very true. There's other aspects too. Jesus said that there would be a people gathered. This is in Joel's 2nd chapter. There would be a congregation of people that have never been before and never will be again. He also said there would be a tribulation such as the world has never seen before and will never see again. Now, the tribulation, we've always been taught, we've always think that this is the tumultuous political situations and nations war against war and all this stuff. Well, we have evidence of nuclear war thousands of years ago. I say pre-flood. We have vitrified cities turned to glass in India. We have the Bhagavad Gita, which is a poem, but it accurately describes all the aftermath of a nuclear explosion. Then we have archaeological evidence of vitrified cities and places where people were stood, and yet their shadow was reflected from instant heat and radiation on walls, just like in Hiroshima. We have an Indian city that is exactly like the destruction that was at Hiroshima. I mean, so you've got literature, you've got archaeological evidence, you've got everything that shows that that's happened before. So Jesus said, this is a tribulation such as the world has never seen and will never see again. What's being tribulated or disturbed, agitated, is space-time. Space-time has never been altered before. I've always said that when CERN fires up, at the same time that Earth goes through an axis shift, there's your cylindrical lock. There's the key that the angel has to open up the pit and everything comes out. So if something's coming out of inside, we probably ought to know what's inside then. And it suggests that the Earth is hollow. Of course, Chad, you and I, we kind of know a little bit about that and talked about it. Your newest production on the Hollow Earth Chronicles. It's important to see that we have some very big missing elements in our understanding that makes it so that we're not going to see clearly some of these events as they're happening. And it has a lot to do more with the Antarctic than it does, anything else. And CERN being directly related to that. So why I say that CERN has anything to do with it, when that sometimes one word can throw a wrench in everything. And I think it's pretty awesome. When it's giving a description of these locusts coming out in chapter 9, it says 8 different points of definition. Now, those definitions, if they can be defined by other scriptures in the Bible, we have to pay attention to that. That's proper hermeneutics. If we don't, we're just, we want to look at it as we have the technology to make a modified grasshopper with all those weird things, but there's other places that describe it. There's something more here in a figurative way, but it's a literal event. So what's coming out, in my conclusion, is the something that looks like He-Man, something that looks like Kevin, what's his name? Uh, he's the one that played Hercules. It looked like that, a famous warrior, but it looked like the so-called Nordic type alien that's coming out of the earth, pretending to be angels in a fake second coming. And the proof in that is the word sound. It just, one word can just mess up everything. Where it gives a description, and the sound of their wings is the sound of many chariots in battle. Well, the Lord really impressed on me. I was getting ready to prepare a talk at Prophecy Club, and I didn't know at the time. He was trying to get me aware of this because it fit right in with exactly what I was talking at that moment. I said, "Oh no, crunch time. I got to hurry up and get this." And the Lord wouldn't let me alone on this, so I went ahead and looked up sound in the Greek. I stood there dumbfounded. Sound had nothing to do with listening or hearing. The word for sound was phone. We get our idea of telephone from that. I look up the specific meaning in the Greek. It means a numerical sequence of numbers. Example, an address. Something is being dialed in, length, height, width, and time. That brings in or opens up this pit. The key with the angel to the bottomless pit. That's it right there. Now, how can I prove that? Isaiah 24th chapter. It talks about what happened right after the flood. It says that the earth wobbled to and fro like a drunkard. And then he took the the ones on high and the kings of the earth. That would be the sons of God and the offspring. And he put them in a pit until they would shortly be visited. Visited is the same thing, pekad, meaning mustered up as an army and to supernaturally intervene in the natural courses of events. Isaiah 26 chapter specifically says what happened there. Now, the idea then is if they were put into a pit during an axis shift of the earth, then an axis shift of the earth in the latter days is what we would expect, and then something is going to open it up. That something being the key to the bottomless pit, that's something being CERN. And I've always said when CERN fires up during an axis shift, boom, that's going to be the magic combination that probably makes all this happen. I don't know if you know that in 2011 we had an axis shift, not just a magnetic, but a literal physical axis shift. Just before 2011, a few months just before, we had 3 hurricanes hit. What's happening right now? We had 3 hurricanes hitting. The earth is wobbling already. And what you don't hear, on a 33.3 degree line axis, on one side of the earth, a few days ago, all the water was flooding up and swelling up on one side of the earth. And the opposite side, all the water had almost like sucked up. And then a couple days later, the total reverse, where the other side, that's the earth wobbling. It's wobbling right now. It's getting ready for another axis shift. Perfect combination. So exciting things and crazy things are happening. I know I'm involved in a couple of things right now that we really want to get them done before the 23rd of September, just to be on the side of safety. Interesting times we're living in. I'm not playing a dating game, but I'm saying it. I'm paying attention to a lot of things that are going on that day. Okay, come on, comments, throw stones, something, anything, guys. No.
Jim,
you're crazy.
Could you go ahead and let people know some of the things that have been forecast for the 23rd?
Oh my goodness, everything.
Just a few things. I mean, I know that's an extensive list. It's incredible, really.
In the Hebrew, in all of the Hebrew festivals, feasts, signs, Jonathan Kahn, I think, is a very godly man, a very mature man in Christ. He presented everything that he had according to the Shemitah in, I think, the best way that a person could possibly do it, in a balanced way. He had to backtrack. I didn't realize it was a year of a signing, not the actual implementation, so that's a year off. So he was a year off on his assessments of the end of the Shemitah. So this is the conclusion of it on the 23rd. And with the 4 blood moons and the conclusion of everything coming at that point. So he's pretty much right on target. He was just 1 year off because he was not realizing the 1 year time difference. So we have that going on. We have the Festival of Trumpets. We have the fall harvest and the trumpets associated with the trumpet judgments. We have this is the year of Jubilees, the cancellation of debt. None of these things, all the Hebrew festivals are lining right up. The image of the woman with the 12 stars. Now everybody's saying, well, see, it's a little bit different because there's a reverse. Instead of Venus, it's Jupiter and a few other things. I haven't really followed it that close. It's just at the very end, I paid attention. I go, oh, wow, this stuff really is important. There's something going on here. So the difference, I'm saying, guys, it's because it's not announcing Jesus like it was, 2,000 years ago. This is announcing the Antichrist. That's why Mars is having a prominence in this whole thing, not Venus. I mean, it's not introducing a second coming of Jesus. It's introducing the second coming of the Antichrist. And so you have that going on. You have the New Ages are expecting any time now that they're going to be poofed away. They have their own rapture. There's all kinds of literature written on it. They're waiting for it. They've been waiting for it, just like Chris has been waiting for a rapture. They're waiting for their time, for their rapture, and they're going to get it. And then you have actual science and physics. And I said in my book that when, 2012, when we get the lineup of probably the reason why we're in a spiral galaxy, theoretical physicists are saying is because there's a black hole in the center of it and it's causing this spiral motion. So we're going to be in line of sight in 2012, which we were. And like I wrote in my book, I said, it's not going to be a switch that's just going to turn on and things are going to happen. I said, this begins a point where we're going to be in direct line of sight of a black hole that's going to play havoc on space and time. And the fallen ones are going to be able to manipulate that momentum and use it to their advantage, which is what CERN is doing. And in that, they're going to tweak out some of this thing and probably throw us out of a linear existence into an eternal one. That's what the Great Tribulation is all about, an agitation. So physicists are saying, you know what, we're due for another Earth axis shift. It's starting to happen now, and CERN is being fired up. It's not by chance. There's everything on every level is pointing, suggesting that something is going to happen. Now, obviously, if there is a time, that time is when we are put into it's like the electromagnetic grid that's around is supposed to protect us is actually keeping us in a linear time existence. If that pops, we're outside of time. I don't even know how to wrap my head around that. We probably won't even notice it, but it'll be there. And there again, maybe we will, and it'll be kind of a really freaky thing. I don't know. I do know one thing. We only got, 9 more days, and I'm either right or wrong, so we don't have long to wait. But everything in my spirit says, we're here. This is it.
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about that because the D-Wave system computers, they've just recently started using those with CERN over the last year or two. And that they, the people, the D-Wave system, whatever stuff, I mean, they've got TED Talks where they actually talk about this, and they say that, we are using them, we're sending information into another dimension, and we are receiving answers back.
Absolutely, because what people don't realize about a D-Wave computer, they're interdimensional. They travel faster than the speed of light. It's just incredible. And who has the D-Wave? Well, NASA's got one, of course. Let's see. Google has one. Apple has one. CERN definitely has one. What is the other one? Anybody that knows Elon Musk, he's offering, from quantum physics, he's offering a real smooth seduction to an entire generation of millennials. There's not one millennial around it is a gamer that doesn't know who Elon Musk is. He owns his own private space program. He's the one that made the Tesla. He is literally quite a genius and very anti-Christian. So he's saying, hey, everybody, quantum physics has proved we're not even living in a real world. It's all virtual. We're maybe not even real either. So, hey, I'm going to make a new virtual reality where you can go where you want, do what you want, no impunity, no accountability. And if you're going to be unreal, just let's have fun with it. And so they're causing people to lose any personal identity in anything, that life even has no value. And what the Lord showed me, and I've got it in a couple of my videos, is that He showed me that the two-slit experiment based on, which is a foundational base of quantum physics, is likened to the two trees in the Garden of Eden. And what Elon Musk doesn't realize is one of those slots represents a real reality, the kingdom of God. And that one is the tree of life. And there is hope for everyone because there's two trees and you stand before them. One leads to death and destruction. One leads to life, eternal. And that is based on it's all about Jesus. And it's based on your relationship with him. So it's rather interesting. I'm sorry I'm getting off on a bit of a bunny trail, but I mean, these are the things that we're faced with right now. An entire generation is being seduced into just having life demeaned to the point where there's no hope, there's no way out. And of course, when they see my some of my stuff, they see that there is a hope that, I actually understand all of this stuff and Elon Musk and who he is, and even how he is a type and shadow of a TV series that almost everybody is, the millennials are used to, and that's Harrison Wells of Star Laboratories. So I wear that shirt around with me. It's a great witnessing opportunity. They wonder, why does this old man wear it? Does he know what that means? Do you know what it's about? Because the whole Flash series has more truth and reality about paradoxical time travel, multi-dimensions. There's more truth in there. I don't like the conclusion. It's kind of new agey, but there's more truth in there that most millennials are just have lived with all their lives. So when they see me and I can say, you know what, all this stuff has a truth to it, but you know what's even more important? The truth is in the Bible, and let me show you what's really going on. It's pretty cool. I love wearing that shirt.
I remember telling Chad that when Elon Musk really started to come into the news, that I was extremely uneasy about him. And part of it that stood out was the fact his name is Elon, but the first two letters of his name were L, E-L. And looking at that in relation to the Bible, I mean, that's when the red flags were going up for me.
Well, there's this younger generation, man. They have never known, like, I'm 66, so they've never known the world that I grew up in. It never existed. So they have nothing to fall back on to compare. They've been raised with an entire theosophical New Age concept right from their birth. It's all they know. It's their reality. Involved in the gaming thing, they are being indoctrinated into some pretty deep stuff that isn't just, it's not unreal. A lot of the attraction that the New Age movement has is because there is a physics attached to some of their crazy stuff. You hear about colors and vibrations and all this stuff. In the Tabernacle of Judgment, which is the breastplate of the Levitical priest, the ephod, there's 12 gemstones mentioned in that, right? And yet it's called the Tablet of Judgment. Now, in Ezekiel 28th chapter, Satan is given 9 of those same gemstones. And it talks about he was given the carbuncle and this and this. But in the context in the Hebrew, it says that these stones is an intertwining fence that's surrounding the world. It's a literal fence. It's the electromagnetic grid around the world that was supposed to protect Earth is now enslaving Earth into this linear existence. That's what's going to pop September 23rd, I really believe, and throw us outside of a linear time. Those same 9 gemstones are ones that, if you understand quantum physics, are used like filters that can deceive or change the electron as it's going through the slot. And I think it's funny that what happens, what changes and potentially can change, they claim, history, is that if you can confuse it or trick it, the electron, from knowing which slot it entered into, things change when you either look at it or measure it. You think of the two secret societies that are controlling all of this. It's the Masons, who are all about measuring, or the Illuminati, the all-seeing eye, to see it or to measure it. That's no coincidence either. They know this knowledge. They know what they're trying to do. The thing is, Satan, in his little dream world, is trying to make his unreal world a real one. As we conform to the things of the world, as we speak out the things of the world, we help to solidify his attempt to make this an eternal state. But, and this is why Christians have to be totally annihilated off the planet, because as we speak out the word of God, as we confess the things of our kingdom, the Lord Jesus Christ, we slice and dice and destroy everything that the enemy even thinks he's have. We are like Neo, overruling all the laws in this daydream world, because we're from another kingdom. This is where God is trying to take all of us as Christians to the next level so that we can be like Neo. So we don't have to be subject to anything of this world. We can walk in the power and might of another kingdom based on another tree. And this is what's happening now. This is why the Lord is trying to draw us closer. What he told me one time, he says, Jim, in times past, I used you in spite of yourself by my grace. But the things that are coming before you now, I have to use you because of you. Not that, thing is that we have to enter into that supernatural relationship. Well, how do we do that? Basically, we practice being in his presence all the time, not compartmentalizing our life. But if we're practicing his being with us all the time, we can use two scriptures. We can use the one, and it says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that's against the knowledge of God, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. If I'm walking with him and I'm not slipping him in my pocket, Jesus, hold on a minute, I got to look at this thing for about 10 minutes and I'll pull you back out and we'll be okay. No, I'm with him every minute. He sees everything, knows everything. Why am I going to try to play games with him? I need to know that he's there right now all the time, casting down these imaginations. The other one says, there is no temptation taken you, but such as common to man. But God is faithful and will not allow you to be tempted above that which you are able, but will with every temptation make a way to escape. So there's two things going on here. Cast down and look for the escape clause. God has a merciful escape. It might be somebody coming in a room that changes things. It might be his voice being louder than the other voice. But the thing is that in the future, we have to have spontaneity. I mean, if we're practicing his presence all the time, then we're not going to have to guess on, is that you, is that the flesh, or is that the devil, or, what we're going to be faced with in the future. We are going to have to make immediate decisions. No room for, wondering or guessing, so that instantly we're going to have a respond. Duck, move, go and leave now, say something to us. I mean, if we sit there and go, well, I wonder, and it's too late, boom, you're dead. That's the stuff that we're going to have to be faced with coming soon, is spontaneity. We're going to have to know instantly his voice and react. So by practicing being in his presence all the time, that causes us to be able to not question. And you'll be surprised when you start really practicing this, you get instant answers almost all the time, instant answers within a day. And some of the prayers then will change. Well, why didn't you do this? And how come this didn't work this way? And instead you're going, Lord, I thought it was my ideas. I thought it was your ideas, but I guess it wasn't. Can you show me how I fit into your plan? How do all these things fit into your plan? I don't have the joy and peace that you say I should have following you. So what am I missing here? Please give me an understanding. Explain to me how I fit into your plan, or how these things fit in. And thank you that it didn't go my way, because you got a better plan. And whenever we do that, then all of a sudden we get the answer, and then we have the joy and the peace that we needed to get through. And that's spontaneity. And I think that's why I'm working on a video right now. Matter of fact, as soon as I get done with the show, I'm going to be working all night until I get it finished and posted on how to walk with the Lord in that way. Because this is something we all need to begin to know how to do. And we can. It's not something that is unapproachable. It's something that we can attain. And by having that instant connection with the voice of God, that's what we're going to need for the days ahead. So Anyways, I apologize. I didn't mean to get down on this little bunny trail, but let's get back to Bloodlines. I'm sorry.
Well, that was information that we all needed to hear, or it wouldn't have came to your mind. So thank you, Jim.
Yeah, good stuff. I would, sort of jump in on a couple of things there for sure.
Please do. No, really, please do.
I certainly don't want to interrupt. So you're saying some excellent stuff there. So I want to be very, very aware of the times that we're in, and I think 2017 is a significant year. When you start relating things like the fig tree generation and how that might roll forward, starting in 2017 to 2037, without laying down dates. As I'm like you, Jim, I do not make date prophecies of any sort of thing, and I'm not a prophet, so I just try and understand what's going on and understand what's in the Bible. And so I think 2017 lines up for a year of significant change, and it's interesting that we've got a lot of things that are going on right now that are certainly seemingly preparing us to start accelerating towards the end time, or the Messianic period, as the Hebrews like to call it. And September 23rd, though, we want to pay attention to it, but understand, we're also told about the signs that are going to be showed by false prophets, and that's when we start to go from signs in the sky to astrology. I think we need to be careful that we're not using astrology, and that there may be the signs from the other side as opposed to factual signs. But we'll see what happens after September 23rd. But what I do know, it isn't the Revelation 12 prophecy that so many people are linking the astrology with, because we're not 3.5 years into the last 7 years. So, and my understanding, Revelation pretty much puts that there with Judea fleeing to the wilderness for safety for 1,260 days, and a whole bunch of other things that I'm not going to get into to back all of that up. But my understanding is that would be more of a mid-trib event. So, but I don't want to dismiss that. I think 2017 is a significant year of shift as we start moving towards at a faster pace in the end time. So I just wanted to throw some of that out from how I'm coming at this, and we'll see what happens. We're not that far away, but again, I don't think September 23rd we see something significant, but I do think that we are moving quickly in that sort of general direction that we're talking about in the end time. And you were mentioning earlier about what happened in prehistory, Jim, and then you were also linking that through the India accounts, and obviously through the different Vedas that they have, and the accounts of the Nagas, and those are just, again, snake-like sort of gods that you see around the world.
Right.
Right, and they were shapeshifters, and I think they're probably the seraphim angels from the polytheist pantheon,
Yep.
And they're associated with a specific type of snake, that cobra sort of look, and it doesn't go back to sarpa, which is the standard word for snake in Sanskrit. It refers to naga, and that's more of a cobra type of shape, and that's sort of the same sort of look the pharaohs would try to emulate with that headdress, and other cultures around. So there's a significance there. And I just wanted to sort of throw that in about the Nagas and the relationship to the Watchers, and that I think were seraphim angels, and all the different feathered serpent gods that are around the world, which seem to be the same type of pantheon and same type of god image that's around the world. And then you were mentioning about just linking, as you're going through this linkage into the abyss and these scorpion type beings. And I think there's two types of scorpion kind of like beings in Revelation 9, and one being the ones that sting people, and people won't be able to die for a period of time because of that sting. And then there's ones that are more akin to horses. But I'm not sure whether or not you've come across, and I'll just throw it out, some interesting parallels to what might be in there, because in the abyss, I think we have fallen angels. I think we have other sort of weird, strange, fallen angelic creatures and or demons that may be in there as well. And if you go back into prehistory, there is in the Babylonian version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a couple of beings known as Akrabuamelu, which is Aqrabuamelu, or Girdabalu. And this is a being that is described as having large beings with the head, the torsos and arms of a man, the body of a scorpion, avian legs, and wings, who launch powerful destructive weaponry depicted as some sort of form of arrows and bows, and a stinging of their prey from their venomous tails. And I wonder whether or not, because when you look at where they're sort of put into the Enuma Elish as well, which is another account of them, is that they're like a protector of the fallen angels or of the gods, almost like one of their military sort of gods. And I wonder whether or not those are part of what's going to come out of the abyss. And I also sort of link that second set that's later on in Joel, the ones that are more like the heads that are like have lion sort of qualities to them, as well as being more the army that's being described in Joel, as opposed to the first set of scorpions in the first part of Revelation 9. So I just thought I'd throw that out as as we look to prehistory and what some of these things that we don't understand in Revelation are all about. There's a possibility there that those were indeed scary, crazy creatures that were in prehistory.
Oh, I have no doubt. There's all kinds of gargoyle-like things down there. This is what they were into before the flood, so why it would follow them, where they're at right now. All the disembodied spirits are there with the fallen angels. There's a wide variety of casts. I think even, I see dinosaurs and things that existed on the earth are still a part of the inner earth, because it all was. But now it's just it's sealed off. Well, a mile and a half thick of ice, that's a pretty good seal. Although it's melting now, so it's probably not anywhere near that.
Yeah.
So, there's a menagerie of a lot of weird stuff down there. And like I said, we only got about 9 more days, and we'll find out. So that's pretty cool. We don't have to wait a long time,
Yeah. So, and I think we're going to have a lot of different things that we're going to have to scrutinize very, very closely as we go into this tumultuous period, because it will be filled with things that we will have to rely on prayer and faith and our discernment to really understand what's going on. So I'm watching this thing very, very closely, just as I pay attention to the prophecy of Jubilees, which again isn't canonized, but it has an interesting corresponding date with 2017, which is the Messianic period. And one wonders whether or not we are starting into that end time period. Certainly, we'll know fairly shortly whether or not this is coming on quickly or not. So, but all the things are lining up, and I think we're starting to see also sort of that rise of those kind of like strong men around the world, and we're seeing more. It doesn't look like that New World Order is forming as how people want it to form, but you insert, because it's been slowed down a little bit, but if you insert some significant signs, or if you insert some significant catastrophes, or if you insert some sort of coming out of the fourth kind, so to speak, of the alien deception, you will see things move at such a rapid pace that people will be surprised at the infrastructure that's already in behind, just readying itself for the opportunity to come together very, very quickly. And I think it will astound people how fast that will come together when the right set of catastrophes, contrived or otherwise, will come about.
Right. And I know maybe one of the things you're alluding to is the fact that, they have apparently found the sepulcher of Nimrod. And that being, we have the technology, we could clone that sucker back. It's not a real smart thing to do, I think, but I mean, it could now. And I'm pretty sure, Gary, that that's what kind of along your belief.
No, I'm not really. I'm open to most possibilities on how Antichrist comes about, but no, I'm not real.
Oh, I wasn't
down
saying
that
this
path of Nimrod being cloned.
Oh,
No, that's not really where I come from. I look at Nimrod more as of an allegorical new Nimrod for Antichrist, because he was kind of the archetype of Antichrist during the time of Babel, and he is such a favored person, amongst the Masons, being the first Grand Mason and Grand Master, and wrote the first constitution for them according to their belief system after the flood at Babel, with Babel being its first manifestation of its sciences. But I'm open to the fact that Nimrod could be one of the people in the abyss, or it could be Azazel, but certainly there is something that comes up out of the abyss that's going to possess or take over Antichrist, or will be Antichrist, because we know in Revelation that he comes up from the abyss. So I certainly think, I leave it open that it could be the spirit of Nimrod, but I also think it could be, the sort of the alternative names to Apollyon or Abaddon, because if you look at Apollo, which would be a very, very similar god to Azazel and or Abaddon or Apollyon, he's actually known in Greek as another version of his name is Apollyon. So no, Antichrist, I'm open to that possibility. I know there's something else in there that affects Antichrist from the abyss, but I'm not sort of boxed in or a proponent that it has to be Nimrod. It's a possibility.
Right.
And
right. Oh, I wasn't even going there with him being the Antichrist. I don't think he is. If you read my book, you know who I think it is, but I don't even lay claim to it. I said, this is just something that, let's sit it on the shelf. Like my son said, put it in a case with a handle on it. In case of emergency, break glass. If there's no emergency, you don't need it. If I'm right, well, then it becomes useful information.
And we don't even know whether or not that Antichrist comes out of the bloodlines of the royal families and that. I know they're all positioning themselves to do it, and the Western families will keep at least 3 Antichrists mentored and initiated from childhood, all ready to go at all times, because they would prefer to take a time that's not of God's ordained time and do it before, but they'll accept the rendezvous on the ordained time if they have to and present their Antichrist. But again, these factions aren't always in perfect harmony. They're not this megalithic movement.
Right.
One of them has to win out, and they're all addicted to power. So they're, directionally they want this to happen, but they want theirs to happen. And then again, we're also told that there's going to be many false Christs show up in the end time. So we could have several stepping on the stage
Bingo.
that are fighting for legitimacy until the real one steps forward. We're not sure which one that one's going to be. So we don't want to bite at the first one that we see come along.
I agree. It's funny that you were saying that, because I was thinking that I have always often wondered the spirit of Antichrist. Now, what triggered this off was when they called Judas the son of perdition. Now, that's the name of the Antichrist. So I wondered, is there a spirit that has actually dwelt actively in a human host all throughout time that is the Antichrist? So that all these godly men that have said, oh, it's this or this or this, they're part right. They're part right because they sense that this spirit has just literally jumped from one person to another, so that spirit has always been here. Now, one of them, so you got, an ageless amount, what's his name? Nero, Napoleon, just all these different people, Hitler, all of them being actually in possession of the spirit of Antichrist, but one of them will come twice, just like Jesus did. So one of them will have a reoccurrence. So who is it? I agree with you that even though I'm 90% locked into something, I'm never going to be locked in. I have to stay loose-ended for anything that hasn't happened yet. right about the time we think we got it all figured out, God shows us we haven't got nothing figured out. He doesn't want us dependent on events, situations, and things that look right. He wants us dependent on his spirit, on him on a day-to-day basis. So if we're just staying in tune with him, it'll all be figured out later, I think, as an aha moment. All of a sudden, all of us will kind of get it and understand who this guy is. But until then, it's it's up in the air that I think one of them will come back twice. The beast that was, is not, and yet is. People have always said, well, that's got to be the Roman Empire or whatever. No, in context, it defines you. It says that, and when he comes, it's talking about the beast that was, is not, and is. When he is a first person singular noun, it's an individual. And that word is never used anywhere else in the Bible except for an individual human being. So we're talking about a guy that comes back twice, just like Jesus would come back twice. So who is he? Hey, let's wait and see. And, eventually someday, I think it'll be an aha moment, and all those that have the Spirit of God are going to, oh, okay, bingo. And until then, I'm just willing to be patient and wait and see how it plays out. And
well, yeah, I agree with that. And again, I think, when it's the beast that comes up out of the abyss, who's the Antichrist, that's going to kill the two witnesses. And I mean, that is such a smoking gun that there's a dual component here. And then, right? And you're talking about the spirit of the Antichrist, and I do write about that in my book, because I agree, like you, Jim, there is a spirit of the Antichrist, as 1 John 4 talks about.
Right.
And so I believe this Antichrist is a legitimate spirit of the Antichrist that is always, it's like a beast, that blasphemies God, which the Antichrist does, that is always lurking, is always looking for an Antichrist person to take hold of, and has been there through all of history, and will still be permitted, but will not be permitted to be taking possession of that Antichrist until the end time. Now, how that fits in with the abyss component, that's a mystery for me, but I do believe there's a spirit of the Antichrist that is out there.
Absolutely. I don't know, you probably know this, but maybe you don't, I don't know, but did you know that CERN, Switzerland, where it's located, in the days of the Roman Empire, CERN, Switzerland is located exactly on the spot of the Temple of Apollyon.
Yes.
It's no coincidence. They picked that spot for a specific reason and purpose. They kind of knew what they were doing. So, I mean, I think it's funny that, it's the very name of the entity that is going to come out of the bottomless pit as the king over what is coming out, which obviously would be the Antichrist.
And do you know the connection to that to Apollyon, to CERN, the actual name CERN?
I know it's an acronym, but I'm not.
Well, they put it up as an acronym, but there's two gods that are equivalent to the Pan God and to Apollyon and to Azazel. They all have the same description and imagery, from a fertility god to a nature god to on and on and on. They're essentially the same god, just in different pantheons. And in the Druidic pantheon, there's a god called Cernunnos, Cernunnos, that has the same descriptions as these other gods that I talked about. And even though that's a little bit longer than CERN, if you go back to the Etruscan pantheon, there's actually a god named CERN, Cern, that is like that Pan god, is like Baphomet, is like Azazel, is like Apollyon. So I think
Pan is playing a flute.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And that's why India gave that statue of Shiva doing the dance of the destruction of particles, because they had shared interest in what they're doing is exactly what their god Shiva does. He's destroying the old world to bring in a new world. So he's doing the dance of the destruction of particles. Man, that's exactly what CERN is doing. They're like, to me, they're like kids. You ask a CERN scientist, and I've known a couple of them, why are you doing this? Because we can. It's like, okay, so you're going to go up to a hornet's nest and start beating on it, hoping that something good's going to come out of that. Thank you. You're messing the whole man. Okay, because we can do it. Yep.
Because we can do it. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And you actually see that name Apollyon that's written in some dedicators dedicated to Apollyon, and he is the Greek god of death and pestilence, and as well as a sun god.
Kind of, it's a real dichotomy, just like what CERN is. It's a total dichotomy. Yep.
Well, what's consistent with what the occult forces, the spirits forces do is they tell us what they're doing in their imagery, and they foreshadow what they're going to be doing, and tell us. I mean, we just have to understand what they're doing. Not that it really is going to change anything, but so when they have these occult sort of ceremonies that are associated with CERN, they're telling us this is something coming that's evil from the spurious side. They name it after, the horn god of the forest, as they like to call him, CERN, or after Pan, or whatever your version of it is that they're basically saying that we want to release Azazel or Apollyon from the abyss. And when you understand that CERN is one of the locations where they have a quantum computer, and I think there's about, my last count was there's only maybe 5 or so in the world.
Yeah.
And this takes, we only need a quantum computer, not for the calculations, although it can do a calculation of what a supercomputer takes 500 years in seconds.
Right.
But you need that more from the fact that it can deal in different dimensions, which is what you were talking about earlier. So this computer is designed to work in different dimensions, and it seems to be that they're trying to get a key into the abyss, and they're telling us that with all of the imagery of the project.
Well, and that's the whole idea. The occult, they have to speak it into existence, just as God spoke, everything into existence. They have to do the same but opposite. So they have to, whether they hide it in plain sight or whether they just come boldly out like they are doing recently and just telling you what they're going to do. That's what they're doing, and they do it in. I'm sure you probably saw the CERN celebration of the tunnel when they were building that. That was just really too creepy. And then CERN itself released its own movie, and it's alluding to September 23rd and also to October 10th. So, they're telling us stuff, whether we are able to fully understand it or not. They're letting us know ahead of time because they have to, because in their belief system, they have to put this out in order for it to become tangible. So it's like planting a seed of thought, a seed of spoken sound and vibration. And when they do that, then they can actually make it manifest and come about as truth. So they're always hiding stuff, whether it be in movies. And some people think, they equate that as you're just gone way overload. You're reading too much stuff into stuff. No, we are literally living in a matrix, and there's no such thing as coincidence. When you start reading these patterns and seeing these patterns, that's what I loved about working with and talking with Dave Flynn and now Mark. They see this whole world as a matrix. They see it in O1s, and they can practically read the matrix, and they have a good understanding of the occult. My friendship with Dave really opened up my eyes. I actually used his book as a guidebook when I was going out into the desert in Arizona. We were looking for an underground base. We never found it, but we had proof that we did find it, because the person that was working with us as our guide, who volunteered as a guide when he heard me on a radio program, and I ended up getting funding for this to check this out. And the guide was on the witness protection program. He was still working for the government. And we got on a base, in the end of everything, we got on a National Guard Armory base without being checked. This is during a war. This doesn't happen. I'm ex-Army. I know, what goes on there. And I was on an air base, a missile base of all things. So you don't get to go through a guard shack unchecked. And by the time we were turned around, he went about 2 miles an hour. And I realized, my God, they're profiling, they're filming us. So I waved and smiled, and, as we went. But for me, that was proof right there. You can say whatever you want after that fact. You're just doing what you were supposed to do. Make sure that we didn't get where we needed to be, and then get profiled for what we were trying to discover. But it was mainly based off of the work of Dave Flynn. And it was kind of a mirror image thing from the east to the west, and it was along the 33.3 degree line. And we got close enough that I'm convinced. We put up a chart where the intersections to near the location would be within a 50-mile radius, and pretty much in your face. We know who you are, we know where you're at, and we know what you're doing. And then we quoted some scripture about everything being known in its own time. And I think somebody in the future sometime are going to be able to use that to find location and hopefully do something about it. Maybe pray against it. I don't know what, but it's some just weird stuff. And if you're willing to pay the price and chase some of these things down, you can find them. I know you are in your way, and I'm doing it my way. And I just think it's so amazing that we're coming to the same conclusions. We're seeing the same kinds of things. And to me, this is, like you said, it's surprising, but it's not surprising. If this is something that God is trying to reveal to us in these days, and we're coming from different angles, but we're coming to the same conclusions, because it's the same God that's inspiring both of us to see these conclusions. And so your witness and your work just is a second witness for the work that I'm doing, and vice versa. So that's pretty exciting, I think.
What's pretty awesome, too, is the fact that you two have never met, but yet you have so much in common. And that's the way it has been a lot of the time, where someone will write something or they're on a line of research, and then they happen to discover after the fact that, hey, there's someone over there. So you know that it was ordained and that you're following on the right path that God is leading you on.
Yeah, amen. Yep.
That's your confirmation, and just keep going.
Some people might feel threatened by that, but to me, I'm excited. It's like, wow, I'm not the only one that... I'm not the only one. That's good.
It can be very comforting at times that you're not the only one out there thinking those types of things, because if you're like me, I mean, we all need support, and it's nice to know there's others that are talking about the same things and adding their speciality or their expertise to a similar type of investigation, because this thing is so big that it does require specializations even in certain areas to get all that information that's out there sort of coalescing into a common narrative and in a way that people can understand. And that's one of the big difficulties is how do you conceal something, or how do you reveal and conceptualize for people simply something that is this big, this pervasive, and reaches everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing, what people have questioned me about, they want me to vet everything out. It's got, I said, look, how can you do that? I will accept rumors, and I will accept things that aren't quite sure. Not that I'm going to lock into them as their truth, but I'm going to accept rumors because we're looking and studying something that is being covered up. So you're not going to be able to vet everything out. And if you do, you're going to stay inside of a box where you're not going to get on some of the things that need to be out there. So I'll take a rumor and use it like a seed. It's either going to be something that's going to produce fruit, or it's going to produce nothing at all. But it needs to be out there as a seed, because this may be part of the only thing you're going to get is a rumor, because they've covered it up. And those things have happened. So vetting for me is not anything. I shouldn't say that. My vetting comes from the Holy Spirit and through the scriptures. And if God says, yep, this is real, then I'm going to the bank with it. If not, and if I can have it at least alluded to in the scriptures where the Lord has shown me something, then I will lock myself into it. Until then, it's okay to keep it in a file of possibility. Because if you don't approach stuff that way, you're going to stay in a box. You're not going to realize that you have some evidence of something that's being covered up. Because the fact is, we look at the end of the book, they're going to cover most of this stuff up until such a time as God will bring it out. Well, how is he going to bring it out? From rumors. It's the only way it's going to happen, because it's being covered up.
Absolutely. And it just as, I try not to speculate too much. And if I do, I try to underline this is my sort of speculation or how I unfold this set of events to a conclusion. But you have to speculate a little bit, but you have to just we just have to be careful we're not crossing over that line.
Right, a balance.
A balance. And we also know that there is going to be misinformation that is put out there to cover up what is going on. And, when I look at how would you lead people away from God in the end time in terms of so many horrible environmental things that are going to be taking place in the end time, like, floods and hurricanes and other things, it's going to happen. So, the other side has to deal with that. But they can't say, well, that's the God that is predicted it, fulfilling his prophecies that he's given us, right? So you have to come up with, things that take a long time to plant that seed and bear that sour fruit that they're going to give humans. And they come up with things like global warming, right? Because it's a perfect thing to get people focused away from God on what the cause might be. And it's an avenue that transcends borders that will help bring about world government. And then we realize it was an idea that was thought of by the Club of Rome, whose job is to divide the world up into 10 groups of nations, and they were formed in the late 60s, and they report directly to the hierarchy of the pure blood Rosicrucians. All of a sudden, these things start coming together, right? Plus,
you make a whole lot of money out of it too.
Well, yeah, they're the first ones to profit from it.
Exactly. So, and the thing is that Satan can't stop this and say, oh, no, this is not really happening. I mean, it's so big, it's happening. But the only thing he can do is what he's best at. Imitate and duplicate. He's going to do the same but opposite. So he'll do everything the same but opposite. So he'll slide along and he'll give you an alternative. Oh, it's not Jesus, it's a cosmic Christ. This is who's really behind all of this, and they're the ancient aliens. And so that's where we get inundated with all of this stuff. And it sounds crazy. Now, as far as what was his name? Nimrod. Now, for a long time we've got a guy who's the head of the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, and he's always said that there's this huge mother wheel up there that's going to come down someday and destroy white America. Now, I'm wondering, there's a movement. I don't know whether you know this or not. My video, I put out a video on it, and it's been banned worldwide. I can't even get a copy of it. Fortunately, after a hard drive crash, I found that on a zip clip, or flash drive, I had a copy. So now I've got a copy. I couldn't even make a copy myself, not from any duplicating machine or anything. So this video was the coming cosmic Christ. And I showed how, and it's so crazy that Farrakhan may get his wish. He may get, I think, maybe Nimrod coming back as the head of his little thing that happens. Believe it or not, there's a movement of let's see, there's a cult group, which is kind of, I call them, they're like black Nazis. There's a cult group, the Tribe of Judah. All whites are Edomites. They're unredeemable. So the only thing we can do is get rid of them. Very radical, very crazy, and small and they were small and obscure, but they're gaining new momentum.
You're talking about the Hebrew rooters.
Well, yeah, but black Israelism. That the blacks are true Israelites and everyone else is a deceiver and a liar. So that anything that's not.
Yeah, they call themselves the Hebrew Israelites is what they call themselves.
Yeah. Well, that movement has taken this new concept, and just embraced it. What it is that in 2014 they had the first National Congress, UFO Congress for melanated people. So basically, it's the first UFO Congress of people of color. Whitey, stay home. And they had several professors, theologians. These are not no lightweights. These guys are pretty well developed. One of them does represent the that Black Hebrew tribe, and one was a street gang member by the name, he calls himself Polite, and now he's like an evangelist in New York. Stands on the street corners preaching what they believe is the real gospel, that this earth is actually theirs. We are the alien invaders, and that this belongs to them, and that they're soon going to be taking it back or claiming it back. And they believe it's going to be through their black extraterrestrial brothers that are going to come down here and deliver them out of our hand, my hands or whatever. White Europeans basically are the ones that are being blamed for this. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, come on. Are you serious? Is this going to be an intergalactic racial thing? I mean, that's just too weird. But the same day I was asking about this, I ran across the guy who works for he's on the board of National Aeronautics. And he's a private contractor, a head of a private contractor also that works for NASA. And they had privilege to information from Voyager and different things. And he was saying, in all seriousness, in an interview, you can still see the video on YouTube, whether this stuff is real or not. I have no way of actually venting it out, but I know that there is a plan, a seed, a device that is trying to impress this on, a lot of people. His claim was that Voyager had taken, when it flew by Jupiter, had taken photos of a planet-sized ship that was orbiting Jupiter, and there were 7 to 9 foot tall black people coming in and out. And the woman had said, well, you mean just, dark skin? No, black, like dark black. And I thought that was pretty weird. Then I went to another site where it showed a crashed ship from Apollo 18. Wait a minute, there was no Apollo 18. Well, they're trying to claim that there was. And when they landed there, they found a crashed 1 mile wide ship with what they claimed a Nephilim inside, and it was a 7 foot tall female black woman who was a pilot. So all this stuff coming together at one time, I'm going, okay, what am I really seeing here? And it's like, oh my gosh, are you going to tell me that Satan is going to play black and white on an extraterrestrial basis? That is a possibility. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying that you see all the trends and the seeds that are planted. I mean, so right now in New York, the tribe of Judah and this Polite guy, they're out there every day, all the time, preaching and proclaiming, this kind of theology. It's picked up. Black liberation theology is picking up on this. It's getting bigger and bigger, usually mostly within the Muslim circuits. But crazy stuff. We're just living in some really crazy times. And I'm sure, Gary, if you did some study or research, you'd find all the bloodlines and it would make it become totally clear. And I'll tell you what, Gary, after the 23rd, I'm going to start looking at your book more intensely, where I'll have some time to deal with.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I don't know whether or not we'll find bloodlines in a lot of those sort of splinter groups or not, but it's also they're not real concerned about all of those different points of view, because first step is to lead people away from God.
Yep.
And they'll come in with their umbrella religion that will umbrella all of the religions of the world and the different factions that they've led astray through first Babylon and then Antichrist. And so they're not really worried about all of those sort of things that don't always mesh up. And also for those liberal utopians out there who are trying to usher in globalism and world government and stuff, you're going to be one of the first ones to go. I mean, that's the MO. That's the MO. So again, there'll be more than just Christians being persecuted in the end time, but they'll unite that under this umbrella religion that crosses over with common belief systems, and it'll be a powerful enough deception to do that, providing they eliminate, Christians and people loyal to God. So right now we're seeing all sorts of different things that are playing out, and I think that just adds more to the anarchy, more to distrust, more to an openness for the majority to accept the solutions that they're going to present us. So again, look for more of that sort of stuff so that they'll drive people who aren't awake and aren't asking critical questions into the hands of the globalists who are the polytheists.
Absolutely. Yep. And they'll be anything you want to be. The demonic empire, whatever you want to be, is going to take you away from the Lord and lead you to the ultimate focal center point of the Antichrist system. They're going to do it. I thought, what kind of religion? No religion on this earth is going to be accepted because of history and tensions and everything like that. But if you have an extraterrestrial religion that's proved and supported by technology and science being the unquestionable God of everyone on this natural person anyway on this planet, that's all you need. You need an extraterrestrial cosmic Christ coming back and explaining and bringing all things, subduing all things to himself in a same but opposite kind of fashion. And so, that's what's going to work. So that's what they'll get. And they'll get theosophy without even knowing that that's what they're getting. And
in the lower mysteries, you're allowed to, and this is the same in Freemasonry and all like sort of organizations or religions, you're allowed to worship the gods and the pantheon of your choice. Mm-hmm. And the understanding is that they're all the same names of the gods. And then at the higher mysteries, you are introduced into the true secrets of who these gods actually are. So again, they can umbrella almost everybody through these sort of lower mysteries. Sure. And with certain types of connections and bridges and catastrophes and revelations and things that they're going to bring that together and still allow people to sort of worship in their own way under this what I call that umbrella. So I think they've already thought that through. And certainly what an alien thing does is it drives people into world government. And the other thing that we see in certainly in all of the entertainment that they put out, it drives us into world government once we know we're not alone in the universe. And the second thing is that the religion that is in all of the science fiction is Eastern mysticism or Gnosticism, polytheism.
Yep.
And so this is the type of religion that they're going to be bringing. And again, that significantly allegorized in what I think is part of the deception is how Star Wars has all of that mixed in, and that we have to fight, or they're going to tell humans they have to fight for their freedom against the oppressive God of the universe.
Actually, you reminded me. I gotta look to see if I can find that Part 2 movie. I can't remember the name of it. It was a movie where a deep space probe was going to a planet they believe was the Nephilim planet or something to find out who they are and what they really were up to in regards to Genesis 6. And when they get to this planet, then they find out it's not there, but now they find out where the home world is, and they're off. And Part 2 is they're off to meet them. It's like,
you're talking about Prometheus.
Thank you. Yeah, Prometheus, right. So they got a sequel. So I've been kind of wanting to watch that and see where this is going. Pretty interesting. It's already out, I guess, but I haven't. I
haven't seen it. I haven't.
No.
So I've been looking for that one as well. So, that producer is also the same producer of the Alien series, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, right.
Yeah. The part 2 that you guys are talking about is called Alien Covenant.
Oh, that's what it's called. Okay. That one's out, yeah.
That's almost prophetic, huh? Alien Covenant.
No kidding.
There's more and more every day that's coming out in Hollywood that is so predictive. And if we look back at some of the movies that are pre-2000, you see things that were silently predicted. I critique every movie that I watch. And if you watch it carefully, you see and know, hey, that happened in such and such year. Or it's very, very strange. And one of them that I find to be the strangest is, and which I don't watch, but I do see videos on YouTube about it, is how Family Guy has been so prevalent in the last few years for predicting upcoming events.
I know The Simpsons had a few choice ones, which are pretty weird, but it's some people listen to us talking like that, and they just laugh. They think how ridiculous you are that you would even consider that. But the truth is there. It's we're living in a matrix. You got to think of it in that way. That these truths are being disseminated into all kinds of things, and then the real, rather the stuff that's not real is put through highly creditable documentaries or whatever, and yet it's just total garbage and junk. It was fun when I lived in Roswell because I pretty much got to meet everybody secular, everybody, from a Christian perspective on the whole topic of UFOs and aliens. And there was one particular guy that pretended or claimed that he was one of the sailors that jumped off the USS Eldridge and came into the future. And I had a chance to meet to him and talk with him. And my just experience from being in the military, in missiles, knowing the security that we have, he was talking stuff was just like, man, you're like a submarine with a screen door on it. Come on, this isn't real. And I asked the Lord, what am I seeing here? And he says, the guy's laughing all the way to the bank. He's on the government payroll, and it's disinformation. And he is. And people just eat this stuff up. And yet he's made up so much stuff that doesn't even have any consistency to it. He conflicts his own stories as he's talking. It's sad, but he's got a yarn to spin, and people just eat it right up. They're not even logically thinking. Well, maybe they don't have the background that he's trying to come and claim from, so that they don't see the holes. But there's a lot of holes in his story. I don't know. Al Bellick, you familiar with Al Bellick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
$3 bill, government disinformation. But there are quite a few big names in that. As a matter of fact, being a former member of MUFON, I would say over half of the people in MUFON are government disinformants. They're sitting on one of the biggest secrets that Satan has, so they're making sure that whatever's filtered through is from them. One of the New Age apostles is very well known. Oh, come on, you're going to forget her name now. The cattle slaughter guy, the gal. What's her name?
The one who goes out and investigates the mutilations. That'd be Linda Moulton Howe.
Thank you. LMH, Linda Moulton Howe. I've talked to her several times. She helped cover up the Stevensville light sighting thing, and she is definitely an apostle for Theosophy and Helena Blavatsky. So yeah, it's pretty sad. She covered up. I wondered, well, she's the cattle slaughter gal. What's she doing? Well, she's working with Jim Marrs, who I like. Jim Marrs. I think he's one of the most accurate researchers around, but he's come into some bad information. He was in my store when I had it in Roswell for 3 hours. We talked, and he was just excited about all the connections I saw with the Nazis and everything. As soon as he found out that I was an ordained minister, you could cut the air with a knife. He looked at me as my enemy, as his enemy, because he had gotten some bad information. But that guy's got some. He's probably one of the most articulate researchers. He went to Germany. He went to the facility that made the Die Glocke, and so he knows a lot about it. So he finally, on Ancient Aliens, said something that I had been saying for 20 years. Because he said it, now all of a sudden, wow, Williamson isn't crazy. I heard it on Ancient Aliens. It's on TV. It's got to be true. Even I could show you in scripture that, hey, look how this fits in here. It's like, it's so funny, just so funny that if it's on TV or if you see it on a YouTube video or it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right?
It all depends. You have to vet even the videos on YouTube. I have a very select few that I trust that put up, but I totally agree with you. Everyone thinks, well, if it was here, it was there, it was true. No.
The first thing I do is research the researchers. Who are they? Do they have an agenda? What do they believe? Where are they going with this? I research the researchers. I want to know who's telling me what. Yes. It's right. On YouTube, especially on videos, you got to dig through a lot of dirt to get the gold. Doesn't mean the gold's not there. You just got to dig through the dirt, but you got to find out what's dirt and what isn't. And you do that by the trail that they leave behind their own personal lives. Who are they and what do they believe and what they do? What are they doing?
Yeah. And so many of them end up being Gnostics, Theosophists, Polytheists, New Age. I mean, it's all the same religion, but and nobody understands that these aren't the so-called cold seculars looking at things with objectivity. This is a biased agenda and religion that is trying to manipulate things.
Absolutely. I found many times when I do that I'm actually coming up to a cultural form of jihad from Muslims pretending to be Christian sites. And they're actually imparting their own twisted idea on the scriptures. You're thinking you're going to a Christian site and watching a Christian, and you're not. You're talking to a Muslim cleric that's well indoctrinated into Christian theology and is twisting everything around. They have got the market flooded sometimes on the search engines for stuff. I was looking for something about John the Baptist and Elijah, and so I went on and I'm hitting all these places. Every one of them are coming back to Muslim sites. It's like, are you serious? How many unsuspecting Christians are going to a place thinking that they're going to a Christian site, and it's not? But if you don't check on who's killing you and stuff, you won't find out. That's kind of important. Okay, you guys, you're gonna have to cut this part. Is this live, or are you gonna, you're gonna have to cut?
It's recorded.
If it was live, if it was live, one of us would be jumping in to fill the void.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
So yeah, you can take a deep breath on that. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I was doing a tour with a video production company. That was videotaping a tour of Hart Plaza, which actually is a Egyptian temple. And the Hart Plaza is more than just a plaza. I mean, I actually think that there's technology that's making it a plasma converter for radon gas. So that Detroit Stargate may be a real Stargate sometime soon. And it's weird, but we went through everything. Now I gotta confess, I've had some health issues. My memory is pretty fogged up right now. I wished it wasn't. I'm really praying about it, but at 66, some of the garbage I've been exposed to in my life, I don't know, but I'm believing God for healing. But my mind has been really, short-term memory loss has been pretty bad lately. And so I'm doing this tour. I haven't done one in about 6 months, so I'm trying to remember off the cuff. Before, I was doing them, once a month at least. And so I could do a lot of the stuff off the top of my head. Well, I was, forgetting. I ended up forgetting 3 different details that I had a little bit wrong. This is Romans 8:28. We did the whole filming, and then when we were all done, they found out that they accidentally turned my microphone off. So they had all the filming done and no sound. That night, I stayed up all night long. I had all my notes from where I was at. So all night long, I had to redub all the sound. But in doing that, I caught the 3 mistakes. Now, with some people's mind, 3 little tiny details could discredit the whole thing. So thank God, that I caught it, was able to correct it. Now it's like even better than it was before because I added more stuff because I'm sitting here in front of my computer with access to all the information in the internet. So I back researched everything just to make sure that everything was accurate. So, and in doing that, I added a few things and made it go much smoother than just off the top of my head. So it was a Romans 8:28. I'm glad they, God knew, Jim, you're going to redo this. And you're going to do it right. Okay. I did. It worked.
Well, it's amazing. I've actually had some interviews where something happened. There's noises and stuff that is unaccounted for, and you go back and it's okay. Well, we can do that interview again, and you wonder how you're going to recreate that interview, and then at the end you realize, boy, that was way better than what we did the first time.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of wonder, well, maybe that was meant to be. So there's, if there's information that needs to be, get out and gotten out, probably in the right and more professional and godly way, then I think those things happen for a reason. But that's just me. But it's happened a few times for sure. Not like that, and I've not tried to recreate an interview the way that you did. I'm not sure I would be capable of doing that, Jim. But I can certainly sympathize with that sort of feeling and thought.
Well, it wasn't easy. Believe me, I feel like a kid that was doing his homework all over again because he got it. But the thing is that the producers, I don't even think he's a Christian. but more of a New Ager. But he sees and understands the importance of Heart Plaza, and out of his own expense, out of his own passion, he wanted to do this apart from his company, apart from all of his connections, because they quite frankly wouldn't probably back and support it. But he wanted to get this out. He even at the very end, now the woman in between, I've done some shows for her. She's got a lot of mixed New Agey kind of Gnostic stuff in, but she is a Christian. She does love the Lord. But it was awesome. These two knocked themselves out to get this production made. I mean, literally spent hours and hours of their own time, not funded by anyone or anything, because they believe that what's going to happen at Heart Plaza someday is very important, and the information needed to get out of how this is the cult, why that Lucifer statue was, brought over to Detroit. They weren't just unveiling it. There was somebody took a phone when they finally found out where it was going to be after all the controversy. They took and filmed the whole thing. I saw it. Man, that was an occult consecration, dedicating Satan to, in Detroit to the powers of darkness, like a baby dedication would be. They covered the whole thing up. You can't find that. You can't find any information on it. Yet there was a Christian community that had it torn down because they were afraid that if everybody watched the entire thing, something creepy could jump off of them, and they would be an innocent victim of some impartation of demonic stuff. And I totally agreed with that. They should have pulled it down, but it's all gone now. I can't vet it. I can't prove it, but I know it. I saw it and I was there. But these guys, they wanted to show the realities of Heart Plaza and what it really was, to the point where they were willing to make a self-sacrificing effort to get this video production done. They knew I was the guy that knew about all this stuff and could help them put it together. You know what they let me do at the end? They let me do an altar call to bring everybody to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. I thought that was awesome. I even wondered if the camera guy himself might have, when I knew that he understood this on a quantum physics level, then the subject really got deep between the two of us. And I think when he saw the hope that the scriptures actually mention all this stuff as part of the end time deception, I'm hoping that he went ahead and prayed too. So that's pretty cool. But that'll be coming out, I think, maybe even tonight or tomorrow. So I'm going to be posting that viral on my Facebook page and anywhere else I can put it. So yeah, it's. I remember a gal 30 some years ago prophesied. She was well known in Detroit. I can't remember her name. She was under a guy named Pastor Vogel, which everybody in Detroit who's a Christian knows who that is. And he supported her ministry. She had prophesied that the largest, how did she put it? The largest revival was going to start in Detroit. She said the hand, Michigan looking like a hand is not by chance. That is the hand of God upon his creation of earth. And that the heart of that hand is in Detroit. I thought, heart, that's pretty interesting, Heart Plaza. And it was from that heart in Detroit that revival would start and spread everywhere. So Satan's countered, so he's made the heart of Detroit, hopelessness, anger, all the weirdness that's going on in Detroit. It's some kind of a satanic PowerPoint now is what it's become. So he's going to launch off his own parallel kind of a thing using Detroit as a heart with pulse, which, Heart Plaza, it's just, there's so many things there, names, everything, all connections that are just, it's too goofy. You can't make it up. And so that's coming out tonight or tomorrow, I hope. We're going to have it all done. But that's, I had to redub the thing. That was just wacko crazy, but it came out better. Yeah, I think, and so Gary, that's what I'm going to do with your book. I know there's some important stuff here I'm missing that I'm not getting, but after the 23rd, I'll have some time. And that isn't to say that I don't think a lot of things are going to happen, but you'll have to see the video when I get it done. I mean, my way of understanding how these events are going to happen, I'm going to have 3.5 years to enjoy, if I'm right, then I'll have 3.5 years where it's going to be a great time, man. I'll have plenty of time to do a lot of different things, including reading your whole book, which I really do want to do.
Perfect.
Well, it's worth it, Jim. I'll tell you, it is a fantastic book. It will floor you once you really start getting into it.
I would probably say that Gary's book is probably going to be comparable to Dave Flynn's book on Sedona-Mars connection, which I think him and Mark, they're going to come into their own, because somewhere ultimately there's going to be a direct connection to Mars and all stuff. My gosh, there's all kinds of connections down at Hart Plaza, because Hart Plaza is focused on going down Woodward. Woodward's guy that laid out all of Detroit. But Hart Plaza ends at Campus Martius, Camp Mars, or the encampment of Mars. The Civil War statue is talking about 2 civil wars. One has already happened and one's going to happen soon. The New Ages try to say, oh, that's an angel on top of a thing. No, that isn't. You look at that through history and everything, that is an identical representation of the god Mars, because he is representing the encampment of Mars. So it's weird. Like I said, beyond science fiction, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, they've got their markers and everything everywhere.
Yep.
And they work day and night, and people don't see or understand what's hidden in plain sight in terms of how well they've organized, how well they've got all of their symbology and allegories and messages out there that just seems to be ramping up at such a pace that it's just overwhelming.
Well, just like all the things that they have in place all throughout some decades, some even the Civil War statute goes all the way back to 1862, I think, is when 1883 is when they initiated it and built it and everything. So, but the thing is, in anything secular about Hart Plaza you look at, they're trying to get over the fact that they're trying to explain, well, how did all these coincidental things happen through the century and through the decades to make the end result? Looking at it from a biblical Christian perspective, it's very easy. We're dealing with fallen angels and demons. They work outside of time. Time is nothing to them. They can inspire all throughout the ages and know how to make everything so disjointed, so that even the name of Hart Plaza was from a senator whose name was Hart. So they can make everything like, oh no, you can't make me believe that this is it. And at the same time, they're assembling everything through time, like pieces of like chess pieces, where it's not recognizable by anybody that anything is happening, conspiratorial. It's not like, black hooded people in a room has made all of this to work. We're dealing with entities that work outside of space and time. They can manipulate, inspire, and move all throughout history to set up their end game, which they think is, going to beat God at his own game. Like, again, I cheated and looked at the back of the book, and we're just looking at losers that are not going to win. They're going to lose. So it's kind of interesting. You can almost have a sense of humor about all of it instead of getting all freaked out and up.
Well, and you raise a really, really good point there, Jim. And I know some people disagree with this, but I don't believe that angels and demons believe that they're going to win. What they're doing, and they know certainly the angels know the omnipotent power of the true God of everything. But humans don't. Their job, what they're doing is they're telling humans they can win. They already know the demons and the fallen angels that it's done. They're going to fight, but they know it's done. But if they can take as many humans with them and deceive them that they actually have a chance to win, that's all they've got left to do.
When you look at Isaiah 14th chapter, the 5 I wills of Satan, now, and so I'm saying that I do disagree with that, but, I mean no disrespect or anything. I think Satan is even more dangerous because he's deluded. He's crazy. Ezekiel 28th chapter says there's a fire burning within him. He's insane. When he broke his fellowship with God, he went crazy. Well, I think that's rather obvious. When Jesus is fasting and praying and 40 days and nights in the wilderness, he comes and puts his armor on his shoulder and says, hey, if you bow down and follow me, I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world. Well, he's in possession of it temporarily on loan. But are you nuts? You're just telling the Creator to bow down and worship him? I mean, are you crazy? I mean, the created is never going to rise above the Creator. But yeah, he's crazy. So I think he has a deluded plan that he thinks that if he does everything exactly the same but opposite, that he'll be entitled to his own eternal state and his own eternal people. So at the white throne judgment, he's going to say, you're a God of your word. And you have to stick to that. I did everything the same and opposite that you did. So I'm entitled to my own universe and my own people.
That's what he was trying to do, is get his own realm, his own universe. But he has the power of God. He knows he can't win.
Well, I think he's deluded and thinks he can, only on a trick in the sense as he's saying, now you're God of your word. I did everything same and opposite, so I'm entitled to my own universe and my own people. And that's where Jesus probably would say something like, I got good news and bad news. You're right, but look what you've done to this realm here. You've brought it to total destruction and fire. That is the lake of fire. You have your people. You have your realm. Depart from me, you that worketh iniquity. And that's what he gets. He gets what he made. He invested in this unreal world to try to make it real. He brought it to total fire and destruction, and that's where he's going to dwell. So I'm saying the destruction of this world by fire is going to be literally the lake of fire, and the joke's on you, crazy. You get to stay there forever with your own people that chose to follow you.
Yeah. Well, we won't know whether or not he thinks he can win or he can't win until over,
we get there,
for sure. But we do know how it ends, so that's the good point.
Yeah.
That's the point that you keep underlining.
Yep. I guess we'll have to wait 1,000 years, at least 1,000 years, and so whatever amount leading up to the millennial reign. So yeah, we'll have to wait on that one for a while. I'm good with it. I mean, like you said, we know the end result. So how we get there is really, it's trivial pursuit. We'll find out in time.
Amen. Well, gentlemen, it's getting to be about that time, and we've loved having you both on, and we would like to extend another invitation to you both to come back and talk together again, because this has been extremely enlightening. Before we say the closing prayer, could you both let everyone know where they can contact you, how they can order your books, anything that you would like to share?
Go ahead, Gary.
Now that time I got the quiet.
I think Gary and I were trying to out-gentleman each other. But Gary, I've been jumping in, so it's your time to jump in, okay?
Sure. Okay. For anybody who's looking to follow me or get a hold of me, and if you do ask me a question, I will get back to you. You can get a hold of me through my website at the Genesis6conspiracy.com. That's Genesis 6 with the number 6.com. And you can email me through the website. You can also order a signed copy from my book if you wanted to do so off the website. So click on Buy Now and Buy Signed Copy. It is also available through barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, and available in Kindle form. Again, all aspects that you can connect through from my website. And it's also available through most online bookstores. And it's also available through retailers if you want to order it through your local retailer, and just tell them it's distributed by Bookmasters out of the northeast of the U.S., and they can order it in for you. You can also follow me on Facebook under Gary Wayne. I also have 2 Genesis 6 conspiracy pages, and I'm working with the Giantology page as well. And you can also follow me or get a hold of me through Twitter at GaryWayne63, at GaryWayne63. And like I say, if you do get a hold of me, I will get back to you.
And you can get a hold of me through awitness41 at AOL.com. That's AWITNESS, the number 4, the number 1 at AOL.com. You can get my book. If you're outside of the continental United States, it's probably better to get my book through Barnes & Noble or Amazon. I think it's $23. You can get it through a local distributor in your own country, because believe it or not, it costs around $50 to send a 23 or my book at 15. Now, if you live in the continental United States, the better deal is off of my website. You get it for $15, which includes postage. I have them tucked away all over in my house, my mobile home that I live in. I've got a nook and cranny with boxes of books, so you can get it direct from me, a signed copy. Like I said, for $15, that does include postage and everything. That would be the better deal. Now I've got 130 videos posted on YouTube. I was going to write a second book. I never got around to it. Most people don't read books anymore. They watch videos. So I have all the videos posted there. Some of them are series. Let's see. I've got on my Facebook page, I communicate more there now than I do on my website. So if you want up-to-date recent stuff, it's just under my own name, Jim Williamson on Facebook. And I do pretty much regular updates on that for ministry stuff. And that's it. And any email that I get, top priority is if you're a victim. If you have questions, I spend usually the first 2 hours making sure that I answer all the questions from people that have questions. It's an important part of my ministry. So there's no stupid question except the one unasked. So please don't feel intimidated or shy or anything. You can ask me anytime, anywhere.
Your YouTube channel is Echoes of Enoch, correct?
No, my YouTube channel is right under my name. My website is echoesofenoch.com or .org. That's ECHOESOFENOCH.com or .org. It'll take you to the same place.
Great. Thank you again. And Chad, you're always so awesome to have on with me. And if you would please say the closing prayer for us, Jim.
All right. Father, we come before you right now. And Lord, I just pray that your people will be aware that this really is about two bloodlines, yours and one that isn't yours. Help them to see it without fear. Help them to see it without associated with salvation implications. That you're such a merciful God that you have made a provision for everyone. Even Satan had a chance to repent, and he chose not to. Lord, you've never taken away our free will. Help us to understand and see that in light of all the weird things. And Lord, as people come to understand all these things, don't let them be afraid. Let them know that if they are putting their trust and faith in you, they're a faithful remnant that will not bow their knee to Satan and the world and all the lies, that they're in safekeeping, that you are going to see us through whatever and whenever, because our time is marked by you and you alone. So, Lord, I pray that you'll give people encouragement. Pray that you'll give them ready for whatever their destiny might be, that they might meet it gracefully and under your protective hands with confidence, with peace, and knowing that they're in good hands with you, Lord. So we just pray that you'll begin to reveal these many things that Gary and I both are willing to share and that we've worked so hard to put together so people can understand. We just thank you and praise you for this opportunity to be able to come to you and this radio program to share what we have and to expose some of the things that the enemy's up to, and more important, to bring you all into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, who's your only hope through all of this stuff. So I just thank you, Lord, in your mighty precious name for this opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We'll
Amen.
be in touch with you both to see about getting you back on again. Okay, that's going to do it for tonight, everyone. We pray that you all have a blessed week. Good night.
In the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the